Hello, my name is Beck and today I'm going to be showing you my quarterly TBR. So these are the books that I want to read from July until September this year. I am aware that I'm filming this a little bit late because it is the end of July, and I'm actually filming this late because there are two readathons that are currently happening. So there's one that has just happened called the Reading Rush, which I took part in, and I'll link my TBR and my vlog below. But apart from that, there is also the Newts readathon, which is a month-long readathon happening during August. So because those books are kind of taking up my time, I filmed this a little bit later so that I knew what I'd be reading for both of those readathons so that I could kind of incorporate them on this TBR and then see what room I had left over to talk about the rest of the books that I want to read. So first up I have 3 comic books, and these are actually on my Reading Rush TBR. So I have Paper Girls Volume 2, I've also got The Steel Prince Volume 1, and then I've also got Descender Volume 1, Tin Stars. And all 3 of these are on my Reading Rush TBR, but I'm not quite sure what books I was going to get to, so I put all of them on there in the hopes that I'd read all of them, but I wanted to read all of them anyway before the end of the year. So I'm hoping that by the time you see this video, I would have finished these, but that is not always the case. So I'm putting them in this video just to cover my bases. So now, aside from those readathon TBRs, I have a few books that are left over from my previous quarterly videos. So first of all, I don't actually have it with me, but it's Unwind by Neil Shusterman, and this is a young adult dystopian book, and I keep putting this one off because I'm just not in the mood to read it, and I was considering unhauling it because I just keep putting it off, and that's not a sign that you really want to read a book. But I looked up the ratings for it on Goodreads, and there's actually some really good feedback on there, and the average rating is fairly high, so that stopped me from getting rid of it, and I do plan on reading it. Hopefully I get to it this year because it's in my priority list, but I don't have high hopes that I will. If you don't know what it's about, I believe it follows rebellion and teenagers, and that teenagers, before they turn 16, their parents can donate their bodies to be literally unwound. So I feel like the Unwind and the Unwind Dystology, which is the series, I have all 4 books, and I feel like they're going to be a fairly dark series, so I keep putting it off for that reason, I think, but I want to just bite the bullet and jump in, but I keep getting distracted by new releases. We just opened the windows and now it's a lot nicer, but I wanted to talk next about this book by Anthony Ryan, and it's The Waking Fire. And I really wanted to like his Bloodsong series, but I ended up DNFing the second book, Tower Lord. And this is a different series by him. It's not set in the same world at all, and I believe it follows drakes, which are a form of dragons. And that's really the reason that I'm hooked, but I hope that this is not multiple perspective, because I did get hooked on Bloodsong and the one character that we followed in that, and then the second book, it diluted that perspective with a whole bunch of others, and all the voices kind of sounded fairly similar. So I hope that this follows a singular character, and I haven't actually read the blurb of it to see, but these covers also look very stunning. This is a high fantasy, it's adult. Hopefully I will enjoy it, and I'm just crossing my fingers and going in as blind as possible. So I actually got really lucky, and the publisher Hachette sent me the book that I am going to be talking about next. This one doesn't come out until the end of July, so it'll probably be out by the time this video is up, but it is Dark Age by Pierce Brown, and this is a 750-page beast of a book, and I'm only about 12 pages in. I started it and then the reading rush happened, so I put it down, and it's not on my Newts TBR either, but my Newts TBR is fairly small and manageable, so I feel like I need to get through my Newts TBR at the beginning of August, and then I can jump straight into reading the rest of this one, because I really want to talk about it, but I don't want to say characters' names because it will spoil you for the original trilogy, and that trilogy has been my favourite. Unfortunately, like I've said in previous videos, Iron Gold, which is the 4th book in this saga, didn't really live up to the expectations that I wanted, and the politics really diluted the story for me when the Red Rising series was actually more action-based and character-based. Dark Age has started out in a similar way to the way Iron Gold felt, so I'm only 12 pages in. I can't really cast aspersions on what it's going to be, but I'm really hoping that that changes, because at the moment I'm tempted a little bit to skim through what's going on, and that's not the sign of a new favourite book, so I'm just hoping that I give this one a 4 stars rather than a 3. I would again tell you what this is about, but I don't want to spoil the Red Rising series for you, so just know that this is a young adult on the border into adult science fiction series following Darrow, who is a red, and he lives in a society where colour denotes what rank you are, and reds are the lowest rank in society, golds are the highest. So he ends up kind of teaming up with a rebellion to overthrow the golds, and I can't really say too much more because it spoils, obviously, Red Rising in the series, so please just go and read it because it is a really great series. I'm hoping it continues to be good, so If you've read Dark Age or if it's on your TBR, please let me know because I want to really enjoy this one. And then jumping back into fantasy, I have Eon and Iona by Alison Goodman. I don't actually know what this one is about either, but it was also on my priority list and I still haven't picked them up yet. So I thought I'd chuck them into this quarterly TBR to make sure that you guys know that I haven't forgotten about them or to keep me accountable for reading them, because I keep leaving them aside and forgetting that I even have them to read. So I actually need to put some focus on them and hopefully pick them up because these keep slipping by and I need to read these. It seems like from the first line of the blurb that there is going to be elemental magic in this series, and I really hope that it's a slow build, earning your magic and understanding how to wield it rather than all of a sudden you know how to do it. So I don't have high hopes for this, but I've got like medium hopes. I don't really want to go in with too high expectations, otherwise they're probably not going to get met. So I'm really hoping that these are good. So the next two books on my TBR are by the same author, and her name is Madeline Miller, and they are Circe and The Song of Achilles. And these two books follow Greek myth retellings, and I'm reading Circe right now, so by the time this video is up, I probably would have finished the audiobook for it. So that follows the witch named Circe, and then The Song of Achilles follows the myth of Achilles as well. I don't really know too much about either of these characters outside of the Rick Riordan universe where he wrote Percy Jackson, and I feel like because that is written for kids, it leaves out some of the more gory and the violent details. So I'm looking forward to diving into the adult retellings of these stories to see a bit more of the grit related to them. Next up, I have a young adult fantasy by an author that is a local Australian author, and it is Monuments by Will Kostakis, and this is coming out in September this year, and so I thought I'd chuck it onto this TBR because my TBR is going to span September, and it would be nice to read this before Melbourne Writers Festival, which is happening in Australia, because Will is going to be there. I don't know much about this story. All I know is that it's fantasy, it's YA, and on the back it says, "They built the world, now they have the power to change it." I feel like this is going to be a fairly fast-paced read, and if his contemporary YA, The Sidekicks, is anything to go by, then I'm really going to be interested in his characters because he knows how to tell a compelling, unique story, and I really like his writing previously, so I'm sure I'm going to love it in a fantasy context. And then one of the last books that I'm going to be talking about on this TBR list is Half a King by Joe Abercrombie. This has probably cropped up previously in other videos, but it's his YA series. Again, I don't know too much about this one either because I like not knowing too much about fantasy books before I go into them, but I'm really liking his adult series at the moment, The First Law, and I've just recently finished the trilogy, and that trilogy spans into a couple of standalone adult fantasy books as well, so I want to read those as well as reading his YA series too. I don't believe either of them are related. They are set in separate worlds, they follow separate characters, but I really like the way he writes such unique characters because even though I wasn't necessarily interested in all of the politics that was happening in his adult series, I could still get behind what was going on because of the characters and I was invested in them. And he wrote them in such a way that they're all really easy to pick out, and they're not particularly trope heavy either. They're very raw and very honest and very morally grey, and I really like that about my characters. So I'm really hoping that some of that translates into his YA series as well. And then lastly on this list is yet another adult fantasy book, and it is The Burning White by Brent Weeks, and that comes out in September. I'm not sure if it's the beginning or end of September, but it's the last book in his Lightbringer series, and I read and loved The Black Prism earlier this year. I gave that one 5 out of 5 stars, and then the rest of the series for me has been between a 4 and a 4.5 stars. I've really liked it and really enjoyed it, and I've felt really compelled to continue, so I can't wait to read the conclusion at the end of this year. It really worries me because September both seems really far away but also right around the corner, and I'm not quite sure how to process that. So these books plus the list of books for my Newts readathon and my Reading Rush readathon are what I want to finish between the months of July and September. Here's hoping that I get through them all because Dark Age particularly is fairly intimidating to me, but I've probably missed a few on this list as well, so I will just let you know in wrap-ups and reading vlogs as I go through the months and tell you what I'm reading then. But as for this quarterly TBR, this is what I plan on reading. Let me know if you've read any of them in the comments, and I will catch you in my next video.